Hi everyone, this is Sajid from Discover Coworking. So today we have Jason from Launch in Winnipeg, Canada, and seems like a very interesting idea. I didn't know there was a co-working space in Canada. Oh well, I take it back. I know there are co-working spaces in Canada, but I didn't know there was something in Winnipeg. So obviously we have Jason, and he's gonna walk us through and tell us why he started, how his journey started, and where he is today. With that, Jason, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. And again, my name is Jason from Launch Co-working Space here in Winnipeg. And my journey started in co-working, I guess, in earnest about 3.5 years ago. Where I was originally inspired was out of a space in Phoenix, Arizona, in a space called Cahoots, and many of you have heard of Cahoots, but they're one of the I guess premier co-working spaces in the United States. And to make a long story short, I happen to be in Phoenix, and I operate a furniture brand or manufacturing company called Oi Furniture. And so I was working from my in-laws' dining room table in Arizona, and I wasn't being very productive with the kids running by and looking for all kinds of things to do in the pool. And so I had heard of this thing called co-working, looked it up, and joined Cahoots for a month and a half. And found it a tremendous experience to be able to focus my work energy at Cahoots, as well as I was introduced to a variety of very inspiring and very unique people, which is, as you all know, one of the great benefits of co-working is just sharing ideas and enabling feedback on business problems and challenges and opportunities that you face. And so I had a phenomenal experience there, and came back to Winnipeg and looked for the equivalent here in my hometown of Winnipeg, which is a metropolitan area of about 750,000 people. And Winnipeg is, I would say, self-described as one of the markets that are last to new things. And so I looked around Winnipeg and really didn't. There were no co-working spaces, and so I jotted down this idea called Launch Co-working Space, and here we are, 2 years, I guess 2.5 years later, and we have built out a 5,000 square foot co-working space that is home to over 85 members as of today. And we've opened our doors. I guess now we're on month 13, so we're still new, I guess you could say.
Well, after the first year, it's no longer new.
There we go. Okay, so we're no longer new
I mean, you
anymore.
cannot claim that. That's done. You're on
Yeah,
month 13.
yeah.
But that's great. So one thing I wanted to know is you didn't find a co-working space. You wanted to do it. I'm sure a lot has happened between the times there. We need co-working in my town and opening doors.
Yeah.
Tell us more. I mean, what are some of the stuff you did? How did you get started? Things like that.
Yeah, I mean, so after I returned from my experience at Cahoots, I looked at what the sort of opportunities were in terms of shared office space here in Winnipeg, and there really was no dedicated co-working space. So quickly, just from my own needs, I looked at what was available in the marketplace, and I found that there was three spaces that were available from a, call it a shared office space, traditional shared office. So Regus, I think most people are familiar with Regus. There is a Regus here in Winnipeg, and they were a traditional business center with the opportunity for me to rent my own four walls and a desk, and pay for parking and pay for all the amenities that go along with that. And it really didn't appeal to me, nor did the members of that community really align with where I was in my business journey with Oi Furniture. The second space that I looked at was really an incubator, startup, accelerator space. So folks that are the community was very young and very green and very tech focused, and I wasn't in the tech sector. And then the third space was very focused on the arts and cultural industry. So quickly, my competitive analysis took me to, well, there's nothing here for me, and I'll bet you there's a lot more people like me in Winnipeg. And so, with that in mind, I put together a quick business plan. Not quick, but put together an executive summary for a business plan and what I thought launch could be, needed to be, and develop my preliminary thinking in terms of sales and marketing, in terms of financial requirements, in terms of operations, and then found a business partner and exposed that business partner uh, to sort of the idea and the concept, and they were very intrigued by it and said, "Okay, let's go and trial the waters." And so, with that sort of endorsement, I then pursued what the real estate opportunities were in our marketplace. And so I did an exhaustive real estate search in one of the sort of regions of Winnipeg. We're located in the southwest quadrant of Winnipeg. And it was intended that way because this is the area where there is the majority of growth in terms of residential, as well as it's very, there's a bit of a commute for folks from the southwest quadrant to go downtown. And so we were sort of hitting two problems with one solution, where we know that there's a lot of remote workers that not only work out of their own home, but we also know that a lot of workers are driving to a downtown location that they're spending a lot of time in their vehicles. And so we strategically located in sort of I would describe it as an industrial park. So it's a suburban location more than anything, as opposed to a downtown or very urban centered location. And once we narrowed down our real estate opportunities, I conducted an open house, or did some pre-selling. And so the landlord was very open to our concept, and part of our deal terms were that I had I want to say 60 days to drum up support or drum up interest for this location, because I wasn't certain that this location was going to be ideal. But as it turns out, we held 3 open houses in a period of 60 days, and we were able to sign up memberships in a space that was completely unfinished. So it was a concrete floor and 4 walls. So it was just an open box, effectively. And so with those pre-sales, it led me to believe that there was going to be market demand. And so with that, it gave me the confidence to push forward and sort of sign the lease and move forward with leasehold improvements and the capital requirements to open the business.
Well, I mean, well, two things. One is obviously you make some things, you make things sound very easy. Uh,
Yeah.
so I need to ask you, what's your background? I mean, did you come from a business background, or because you seem to have done some lot of the stuff right, like competitive analysis, executive summary, business plan. So was that something you learned, or I'm sure you ran the furniture business, so that kind of had.
Yeah, so I guess a combination of background here. So I spent the better part of a decade in sort of a marketing advertising agency. So I'm very familiar with marketing planning, market development, branding, and how important that is to a new business. And dovetailed with that experience, I also had the experience of starting, or being on the founding team of starting our furniture company. And that that process enabled me to understand business planning, capital and finance, as well as manufacturing and production. And so I'm very, I guess, a well-rounded business person in terms of from idea through to execution. I probably covered a lot of the bases in my own experience over the last, 10 to 15 years.
Love that. Love that. I mean, it kind of comes across just the way you kind of went through this whole process. So and now
Yeah.
and I think we are going to talk more about your marketing background and try to dig deeper, because obviously we never had a owner of a co-working space who comes, or at least we didn't have it on our show, where who comes from an advertising and marketing background. And I want to pick on that side of your brain, pick on your brain on that. So first of all, when you did the open houses, how did you inform people, hey, there is an open house happening,
Right.
and here's the
So,
concept?
yeah, before we signed any sort of commitment in terms of a lease, we developed our brand, which is Launch Co-working Space, and so we worked with a creative firm here locally who understood our vision, understood some of our values, which was to help and grow business for entrepreneurs and small teams, and developed our logo and all of our color palettes. And then we developed some very essential marketing material, which is website number one.
Okay.
And then number two was we did have some very basic postcards that we just circulated to various industry associations at available networking events. And so those were the first areas that we invested in terms of marketing. So developing our foundation first, and then from there investing in some of the key touch points, which is website, that allowed people to learn quickly about, what our vision was and where our location was going to be, as well as not only register to attend our open houses that were planned, so a bit of an event schedule, but also to be able to actually process a membership. So if someone was, I'm interested and committed, they could just visit our website and effectively check out, which showed us commitment.
Yes, absolutely love that.
And so we conducted those open houses, and then the next step after that was, well, I guess in between that, we also developed renderings. So we were conducting open houses, like I said, in a raw space, and so we needed to communicate our vision visually. And so we worked with a local architecture firm to showcase, here's the design, here's what you're buying into. And so we had mock-ups and conceptual drawings that we publicly displayed to showcase, here's what the space is going to look like.
Okay, great. And the partner, was that someone you knew, or was that someone you met along the way with?
Yeah, it's someone I met along the way. Partner is a silent partner, so unfortunately I can't speak too candidly about that, because that's just their wishes. But no, someone I met along the way in a very unusual circumstance, and that's sometimes how business goes.
Especially in the co-working world, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, when you did, you mentioned postcards. Now, did this? I mean, obviously, co-working was a new concept, still is to some extent a new concept. People are still finding out about co-working. Did you explain what co-working is, or how did you go about designing that postcard and communicating what is it you're doing? I mean, is it like come check us out and something new is happening, or we are doing
Yeah.
co-working?
Yeah, we really didn't go into depth in terms of our number one objective wasn't trying to educate people on co-working. Our objective was to try to inform people that something new is coming, and generally people would self-explore. And we knew also that there were a number of folks out there who already knew what co-working was, because they'd been to other markets like Vancouver or Toronto or wherever they're from. And so they were familiar with the concept. And we knew that those would be our early adopters, which is exactly what they were. So our pre-sale memberships, they'd all heard of or knew something related to co-working. And so, yeah, our objective was just that. We need to inform people that something new is coming. Here's where you can learn a little bit more. So on our website, we had some more information about what co-working is and some links to reference articles and that kind of thing. We also did, I think, a very good job on social media. So that's one thing we didn't talk about. But, organically informing people and building your audience on social media is one of the things that we use from a marketing perspective as well.
Okay, and did you do any online paid campaigns, things like?
Yeah, aside from the early on days, the only things that we did from a sort of a paid perspective was just to boost certain posts that were getting more traffic. So if we would post something that quickly, let's say after a 24-hour cycle, got 25, 50, 100 likes, then we would say, okay, well, there's something very intriguing about this post to people. Let's augment that. And so we would boost that post so it reached more people. And that's all we did from a paid perspective in let's say, the first 6 months from pre-sale all the way through to being open.
Okay, great. Now, how long did it take from the time you finding the space to the day you open? You said a year. Was that year spent in construction, or was that just like idea, website, pre-sale,
Yeah. Yeah.
construction?
So you're gonna dig into some of my open wounds, aren't you? so
Okay, we don't have to talk about it. I'm sorry. I didn't
yeah,
mean to
that's
do
okay.
that.
That's okay. So when did we sign? We signed our lease. I guess it was September 1st, and at the same time we had we had shortlisted a series of general contractors who were going to come in and get the work done that needed to get done from a renovation and leasehold perspective. And so we were left with the impression that our work would take 3 months, so that we would be open for December 1st. Long story, very short. We quickly discovered that our general contractor was disorganized and was not meeting his timeline expectations, was not paying some of our suppliers that we had advanced money to. To make a long story short, when the December, well, when we saw that our occupancy or building permit wasn't applied for, that was a big red flag. And then subsequent to that, after many meetings to try and rectify the situation, when December came and went, and we were sitting there in January asking when our space was going to be complete, we were given another date. It was the final straw, and I had to release our general contractor, and I took over the general contracting role myself. And so we were supposed to be open December. After I took over, we got open in April, and so the major delay there was our general contractor. So my advice to anybody watching this show is to be very not cautious, but do your due diligence on your general contractor. I thought I had done my due diligence. I had contacted some of his most recent work, but be sure that you have a very confident, general contractor who will meet on timelines. And then I would also dovetail with that in terms of being very careful in terms of how much money you advance general contractors.
Or you can request Jason, see if he will take on your project.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Now he has the expertise and the experience, and he can get it done.
Here, California is very nice in January.
So is Miami.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Let's move on. So now let's learn. I want to learn a little bit about your community, about your
Yeah.
space.
Sure.
You mentioned, if I wrote it down correctly, it's 85 members.
That's right. Yeah.
Who are they? What brings them to your space, and what are the type of things they're working on?
So we have a range of members, just like any other co-working space, that range from a lawyer all the way through to a chef, and any conceivable, professional in between. We likely have as a representative of our, membership. We also have small teams, so we've got a franchise tutoring business here. We have 2 technology startups with small teams of under 6. We more recently have a multinational corporation who's set up their regional office here. And so we've got a real wide variety of members, from obviously marketing, social media, consulting, business planning, finance, human resources and consulting, you name it, we've got somebody that's a representative in some sort of area expertise.
I mean, I'm curious because I would not have thought that chef would move into a co-working space.
Yeah.
I mean, usually they need kitchens. So, what kind of activities do they do? Can you share anything? Do you know anything about them?
Yeah, so in this specific scenario, our chef, he primarily does a lot of his planning and his, I would say, just organizing his weekly business activities. He's not doing any cooking here. We're maybe, for launch 2, our next location, maybe we'll add a kitchen for him. But for today, he's just generally coordinating and organizing his monthly engagements. And he's a private chef, so he does a variety of private events that are off-site and, at weddings, at cottages, at specific locations. And so he uses the space as a place to focus, to organize his business, as well as meet with various team members and suppliers.
And along the same lines, and obviously, and this is the last question on this topic, which would be lawyers. They usually want something very polished, really fancy space so that their clients can think, oh, we are working with a top-notch lawyer. And I think
Hmm.
it's co-working, and if I see what I see in the background, which is like I see your, plumbing or ductwork up
Yeah.
there, it's very exposed, very, industrial type. How does that work out? I mean, do they has any? I mean, is that a very new startup type lawyer, or is that just traditional practice? That's a big departure.
Yeah. Not a. I wouldn't describe our member lawyer as we've actually got two lawyers who are members here. In one case, one of our lawyers has been with us since day one, and they're not certainly not a startup. He had an established practice over 13 years since he was called to the bar, and had a focus on mining and minerals with some um, energy or some exposure to startup related, I guess, work. And he was operating out of his home office. And so when we opened Launch, he walked through, and we've got a very, I would say, refined design. It is very contemporary, very modern, and but it's very clean, and it offers a very professional presence in a very engaging environment. And so I can't put words in his mouth, but he's here because this is a professional environment, and it gives him an opportunity to focus on the work that he needs to accomplish on a day-to-day basis. And so he's most recently added another team member, and conducts a handful of meetings out of here as well. Um, our other lawyer member, she does a lot of real estate related transactions, and so she found it convenient to be able to use our space 1 day a week and line up all of her real estate work in one location, as opposed to driving all over the place to meet clients or what have you to get those real estate related transactions finalized.
Lovely, thank you. And now that you've been open for 13 months, what kind of events, activities do you usually conduct do you do any events? If so, who are they for? And
Yeah, community engagement is a really important part of what makes us different. We embarked on I would say, a very ambitious event program when we first opened our doors, where we effectively launched sort of four programs. One was called Launch Talks, and that was the focus of that program was to feature a local entrepreneur once a month to share their story with the community, just like I'm doing now. And so that was one program that we thought that worked really well to connect audiences and connect people and share stories and learn from one another. The other program that we launched was also Launch School. So again, an education-based program where the first two, I guess the first six events we did were all marketing related, so brand fundamentals and strategy, as well as marketing automation. And then the third element that we brought was called Thirsty Thursdays. So this is your classic happy hour, effectively, to grease the wheels with some libations, and so that was the three programs that we focused on. And so now we're just here in late June, early July. We're looking at what our upcoming event plan is going to look like. I think we're going to add in a potential pitch competition in the fall, and we're likely going to dovetail that with some midweek mind tweaks and maybe some more member presentations going into this fall. But effectively, the event programming is designed to, follow the vision of enabling our members to, you know, share collective wisdom effectively.
I love that. So let's talk about your team. Oh, by the way, before we move on to teams, I mean, are these events open to outsiders or is it just for members?
No, they're open to outsiders as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, coming back to your team, it's a 5,000 square foot space. I'm sure you have help, unless you're Superman. In that case, you can do it by yourself, uh, which is
We have
possible given that you
we
have done furniture business and you have
yeah
done the general construction business as well. So,
Yeah. Well, we've had a few different team members over the last 13 months. We initially started with three part-time employees, one that was focused on operations, another on marketing, and another on events. And that worked well, and that's evolved, and it's evolved into one community leader who now does all of those three things, and it's really just a function of people moving on and certain skill sets that my previous employees had. And so now I've found or I have an individual who has expertise and capability in all of those three functional areas, from operations, marketing, as well as events.
So, what does a community leader do? Or what's his or her role, day-to-day role like?
Yeah, I mean, that role is really designed to operate this space on a day-to-day basis. And operations from a co-working space varies from emptying the dishwasher to taking out the trash to hosting an event. To conducting a tour for a prospective member, to solving a Wi-Fi issue that might be occurring with someone. So it is a hybrid of a customer service, member service related role, which is paramount in this business, as well as a marketing and sales role, continuing to ensure that we're communicating a message and we're having conversation with prospective members to continually add to the community.
And I'm very curious, if I were to look for a community leader in my organization, which obviously is a co-working space, what are some of the soft skills that I should be looking for? I mean, what should be like, is there any, if you were to rehire for this position, what would you look for?
Yeah, I mean, there is a variety of, I guess, fundamental traits in terms of a person that you'd like to have in this role. The person needs to be energetic and enthusiastic, um, yet approachable. And they also need to be sort of detail oriented. We're in a business where details really matter. And so there's a long list of things that you need to look at, and ultimately experience is really important. So look for previous experience that shows operational capability, that shows marketing and sales experience and results. I'd say that's my key advice. Really have those as a priority for your next hire, is to look at those results and that experience before you embark. And what we also do is when we do select a candidate, we do hire them for a week to see how they perform. So it's not hey, we've interviewed you once or twice, we really like you, come join our team full time. It's we've interviewed you, liked you, now we want to see how you perform in this environment. And so we'll do a 1 or 2 week trial where we'll monitor and educate and inform, as well as we'll see how that individual interacts with members and get member feedback after the fact.
I like that idea. I mean, I like the idea of hiring for a week.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I would like to try that. However, oftentimes, someone is already employed somewhere, right? They already have a job and they're looking to switch. How do you? I'm not sure if you had to navigate those waters, like figuring
I
out.
have, yeah, no, I haven't had to navigate that particular scenario. I think the idea that comes to mind, if that scenario presented itself, would be that we do conduct events on evenings and weekends, and over lunch hours, and that's a good, place to, I guess, try out that employees, get them to an after hours event and see how they perform and conduct themselves.
I'm glad I asked. Thank you. My next hiring success, uh, I'll be like, I learned it from Jason.
Excellent. The
Because
invoice is in the mail.
oh, sure.
Yeah,
I think, if the knowledge saves me time, and time is money,
yeah, that's
then
exactly
go
right.
for it. I mean, I'm happy to pay for it. Cool. So now I think as we come towards the end of our discussion, I want to know What's your one key takeaway from this whole experience? I mean, what would be your advice for someone who's getting into this business, or someone, if I were to walk up to you, say, "Hey, Jason, I want to open a co-working space," what would you tell me?
Wow, I haven't been asked that question before, but that's a really great question.
Thank you.
You know, I would argue that you need to be prepared for a journey. And just like opening any business, there's going to be a bit of a roller coaster involved with it, from things going perfectly smooth to things falling out of the bottom. and and so I think what I would tell you is that it's a very compelling, exciting, frustrating, and educational journey. I mean, I have met 158 people in the last 13 months that otherwise would have never met. And where those people add value to my life, you know, some have already added that value, and you never know where that value is going to be added down the road, in terms of new business opportunities, in terms of just professional and personal development. And so, if you're really looking to embark on a personal and professional development, this is a great thing to do, because it will expose you to a variety of different things, and it will challenge you, and it will you'll see successes and you'll see defeats.
I was gonna, entrepreneurship is a lonely journey, right? It's very lonely at the top. I'm not sure how rewarding it is at the end of the day. Maybe it's very rewarding if you're looking for fulfillment, because you get to see a lot of businesses and people who are making it to that next level because of your space.
Mhm.
Um, Again, what do I know? I'm just making things up after listening to you. But yeah, I think it's good. I don't have. I do have a lot of questions, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. But at the same time, I want to understand why you opened up Launch.
Yeah,
Uh, what motivates you? Where you came from? Your background, and get some ideas out of your head into the
yeah,
ether world.
yeah.
And I'm glad you gave us the time.
Yeah, no, I'm happy that you reached out to me, and I'm happy well, I'm happy to have shared my journey with you. And although it hasn't been long, I've shared some of the highlights and lowlights, but there's obviously a lot in between. And so, if anybody watching this episode would like to dig in a little bit, or has a very specific question, I'd be happy to to review that question, or discuss the scenario, and help someone else out along as they embark down this path of co-working.
Thank you, Jason. That's very helpful. Is that okay for them to contact you? What's the best way to contact you? From your website or LinkedIn or either
Yeah, if
or?
you just visit our website, or LinkedIn is fine too. So our website is launch 1460.ca, and LinkedIn, just search Jason Abbott and launch co-working space, and I should come up. And happy to connect with anybody that way too.
What we will do is we will put the link to your LinkedIn, maybe from our article, into
Yeah,
your LinkedIn
for sure.
profile, so that way people can find you easily. Because connecting with the right resource, someone
Yeah,
experienced like yourself, is like makes things a lot easier along the way.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much. You are. It was great having you. Lovely talking to you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Sanjeet. And if you're ever in Winnipeg, you know where to find me.
I sure will find you.
Okay,
I have a lot of questions for you about the furniture business, but that's for another
sure.
day.
Hey, we can do that if you want. I've got some time, Sanjeet. If you'd like to chat now.
Sure. Let's continue on.
Okay.
People will. I'll ask you a couple of questions. So, what happened to the furniture business?
Still going. So we primarily service, or we sell a lot of product to the education sector, education and public libraries and office spaces and museums in North America. We're still, I would describe it as relatively small, and it's just a function of distribution and the power and the capital required to establish distribution. So, so yeah, that's the business continue or is ongoing, and so I split my time sort of 50-50, 50% launch and 50% Oi furniture.
Now, have you used the furniture? I mean, obviously, you have a connection to the furniture industry and co-working. One of the component is furniture, right?
Yeah.
So, have you used some of those connections and in furnishing your space, or is that something that done outside?
Yes and no. I'll just navigate over here. So see that yellow and white
Yes.
configuration? So
Uh huh.
that's our furniture.
Okay.
Um, I haven't. I'm very knowledgeable on furniture, so it was very helpful when it came to negotiating pricing for the furniture that we did install at launch. But we didn't do any, I would say, marketing related or contra related deals with any of the furniture that we installed here. I think it's a function of the fact that we're in a smaller market. We're not in New York, we're not in San Francisco. Um, and so we don't have, I guess, that appeal for a major brand to sponsor our furnishings. That could be something that I'm going to explore for our second location. And we've got a couple of local manufacturers as well as some of the bigger brands to see if, maybe they'd like to do something different from a marketing or living showroom perspective.
And have you thought of, doing your own furniture line for co-working spaces? Now you are in the business of co-working. You know, understand what's needed in a co-working space. You have
Yeah,
been in furnitures. Marry this, mash them up together, and say, "Hey, here is the perfect solution. You don't have to go
yeah,
to those $1,000 desks and $1,000 chairs anymore.
yeah.
Something similar, better, cheaper."
Yeah, I really haven't gone down that path. I mean, when it comes to tables and chairs, there are a plethora of options at various price points. And so I just don't see the specific, I guess, product or market opportunity to design something that is solely used by co-working spaces. You know, I think there's maybe some opportunity to add some different lounge seating, but there's tons of lounge seating too. So I really don't believe that there is a furniture opportunity in the co-working space. I think where there is real opportunity is actually in the layout and design of the co-working space. And so integrating a very specific design principles in terms of square footage and number of tables and number of desks and number of soft seating and number of, I think there is an opportunity there to be an expert in terms of how or which combination of furnishings should be used in spaces.
Okay, so talking about design, I mean, obviously the architect you have worked with, did they know what co-working was, or did you have to explain to them, or how did you all settle on
They
a
were
design?
they were loosely familiar, but how I inspired them is, quite frankly, I put together a Pinterest board. And I said, guys, here's sort of some design elements that were that I bore out or that I found on Pinterest from all different office environments. Whether it was co-working or not. I just said, here's the aesthetic and the environment that we're trying to create. An open, fresh, professional space. And here are some of the elements that I think are important to consider when we lay out this 5,000 square feet. And so with that inspiration board, they came up with a conceptual design, and quite frankly, they came back with what I thought was a very relevant layout. And I didn't make any changes, I don't think. And so we moved forward based on that.
Now, do you have any cafeteria or a?
No, we don't have enough space for a cafeteria, and the building that we're in is not a cafeteria as well. So that's one of the, I would say, the small pain points is that we don't have any restaurant amenities within walking distance. We have our own, obviously, coffee and beer, but we have a service here in Winnipeg that was launched out of Winnipeg called Skip the Dishes, and so we have a regular Skip the Dishes delivery of food. So our members are hungry and they'll jump on Skip the Dishes and food will get picked up at their restaurant of choice and delivered here. And that's a technology startup that is based out of Winnipeg and just sold or was acquired by a UK-based company called Just Eat. And so major story here in Winnipeg for the tech scene.
Wow, I didn't know that. I have used Just Eat, so
Yeah.
so cool. Very interesting. I didn't know that they have acquired a company in Winnipeg, out of Winnipeg.
Yep. Yeah.
Uh, what are some of the problems your startups are solving that are housed in your space, that are using your space? Anything local, international, AI,
Um,
blockchain?
we've got what do we have? We've got, I would say, two pure startups. One is launching a content platform for sports content platform, where it's designed to help you aggregate all the daily content related to your favorite team, league. Okay. Yeah. Hang on 2 seconds, Steve.
Sure.
Sorry. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, do that. Thank you. Grab my business card on the way out. It's on the left hand side. Yeah. Thanks. Sorry.
Oh, it's fine. That's co-working life.
There you go. Exactly. Where was I? Oh yeah. So sports content, and it's designed to help people make more informed bets through some of the betting platforms. And then we've got another pure startup which is focused on digital reading. And so it's an app-based platform that is designed to have tutoring, but instead of a live tutor in person, you tutor through the iPad. And so it's 20-minute reading sessions with a remote tutor, effectively.
Wow, love the idea.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think I've come across this idea before,
yeah,
but just love the potential because
yeah.
now you can connect with, maybe if you're learning Chinese or Mandarin, you can connect with someone who is China
hmm
effectively.
Yeah, their initial programming is really designed for school-age children, sort of kindergarten to grade 3, maybe more, kindergarten to grade 5, and increasing the frequency at which kids are reading. So instead of mom or dad having to read with their child all the time, mom or dad can sign up for this online tutoring session on a regular basis.
I, I just love this idea. I mean,
Yeah,
please tell, I do not know their name, but tell the team this
you
will
can look them up.
happen.
They're called Hoot Reading.
Hoot, HOOT reading.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll check them out. But really great idea because now you are opening. Internet did something, and this is a step above it. Just
yeah,
because I personally like it because now you can connect with tutors, right? And obviously, I'm sure they're gonna expand it down the road for other individuals as well beyond grade 3.
yeah,
But imagine you can learn anywhere. You don't have to be confined and just take tutors that are around you anymore.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
cool. That's all, Jason. Thank you.